Jimmy attempted to shut him off with sarcasm and arrogant laughter. Elon remained cool, was tossed off, and then answered in a manner that made the whole country stop and listen. It was meant to be a relaxing Thursday night in Los Angeles. The audience at Jimmy Kimmel Live had settled in, with laughter reverberating from the previous speech. Until Elon Musk went on stage, the gathering had a typical late-night pace. He wasn't wearing anything extravagant, just a dark jacket, a neat black shirt, and his regular controlled appearance, which he wears like armor. The clapping was strong, with some shouts being louder than others, yet there was also a feeling of anxiety. Elon smiled momentarily, nodded to Jimmy, and sat down. It began out well enough. Jimmy greeted him with a playful jibe about SpaceX's delays, and Elon grinned, but then everything changed. "So Elon," Kimmel started, scrolling through his note cards with a smile that did not quite reach his eyes. "How does it feel to control a platform where conspiracy theories and memes are the primary currencies?" The crowd laughed, but Elon did not. "I believe people are weary of contrived tales," he said quietly. "They want the truth even if it is messy, and I'm okay with that." Kimmel leaned forwards. "Sure, but you've got people saying crazy things on X. You're not worried about giving them a megaphone?" Elon cocked his head slightly. "I'm more concerned about those who believe certain voices should not be heard." There was a pause. That was the moment. No dramatic music or flashing lights, just a mood. Kimmel blinked, clearly attempting to pivot, but instead of calming the situation, he pushed harder. "Come on, man," he urged in fake earnestness. "You've been flirting with every political stance out there. It's as if you want to be everyone's rescuer and nobody's ally." That struck a chord not just in Elon, but around the room. The grin on his face disappeared. He did not raise his voice or yell. He just gazed at Jimmy, remaining silent for a second longer than was comfortable. "I came here to speak about technology and innovation, and maybe even express some things I'd never stated before. But if you want to speak politics, don't claim to be unbiased." You could feel the change, and there were a few claps from the audience. Others weren't sure how to respond. Jimmy shrugged. "Hey, I am only asking questions. That is my job, and it's up to me to respond honestly," Elon added calmly. "But let's not pretend this is a dialogue when it's obviously an ambush." The crowd grumbled. Jimmy's smirk was vanished. For a brief while, he seemed to be completely confused. "Well," he added quickly, "if this isn't the interview you expected, you're free to leave." The production team paused, but Elon remained still. "That's the point," Elon responded, eventually rising up. "I expected more from you and this platform." Security approached. It wasn't aggressive, just odd. The stage manager murmured something. Elon offered a weary nod and got off the platform. The cameras focused back to Jimmy. He smiled uneasily, looked around the crowd, and added, "Well, that escalated." However, it didn't feel like a joke. Felt like something had snapped. But backstage, away from the lights and the plaudits, something else was already in action. Something no one at home has seen yet. The instant Elon appeared behind the curtain, the vibe changed. The hallway was cooler and quieter. There are no cameras, no applause, just anxiety hanging in the air like smoke. A young production worker wearing a headset attempted to direct him toward the side exit, but Elon would not follow. "Where is Kimmel?" he asked bluntly, not furious but incisive. The assistant hesitated. Probably in his locker room. They said you should." "I didn't inquire what they said. I inquired where he was." A few employees stopped moving. Elon rounded the corner before anybody could stop him. A security guard caught up with Jimmy just as he was leaving the green room, massaging the back of his neck, apparently trying to figure out how to spin what had occurred. He didn't expect to see Elon again. Not this soon. "What happens now?" Jimmy groaned, arms crossed. Elon remained frozen, not moving any closer. "You invited me on your program. You focused on your tale. Then you shut me off. Please confess it." Jimmy gave a quick, hollow chuckle. "Please do not behave like a victim. You have both billions and admirers. What are you so furious about?" "It's not about me," Elon said. "It's about what you attempted to transform this into. You do not want to have a talk. You desire control. That struck hard. A crew member nearby, holding a phone and partially concealed behind a fake ficus plant, captured the scene unintentionally. He was filming in case anything bad occurred, but the talk was neither loud nor confrontational. It was revealing. You want to speak about free speech, Jimmy said, but you've caused mayhem. That isn't freedom. It's just noise. No, Elon said strongly. Noise is what happens when you quiet one side and call it balance. For a few while, neither guy spoke. The hallway lights hummed silently above. The tension was not aggressive, but it was genuine. One guy is supported by Hollywood, the other by something considerably more difficult to manage. Elon then glanced around at the team. You may trim it, alter it, or even let others hear it as it occurred. He turned and went away. No microphone, no cameras, just the sound of the exit door closing behind him. However, a few hours later, shortly after midnight, someone submitted a 90-second video on X. No graphics or subtitles, just raw film. Elon stood in the corridor, pointing out the hypocrisy while maintaining his cool and speaking as if he didn't need a platform to be heard. It started with a few thousand views, but by morning, it had grown to almost 5 million. By lunchtime, it had spread everywhere. Major news outlets published different headlines. Elon boils down after Kimmel's appearance versus uncensored Elon video, sparking a free speech argument. However, the audience was not stupid. They watched the original footage. They witnessed Elon remain cool, Jimmy squirm, and how the argument was not about ego, but about something larger. The truth, control, and the gaps in the walls were instructed to trust. But the real storm hadn't even started, because what the public was going to do with that video will surprise everyone. By the time coffee shops opened in Portland and gas stations lighted up throughout Ohio, everyone had seen it. Elon's silent takedown, that unfiltered, shaky video from backstage, had went farther in 6 hours than any official broadcast could have imagined. People weren't simply observing. They were responding, and not pleasantly. On X, the responses were electrical. A jar stance with Elon appeared first. It wasn't only computer dudes and Tesla fanatics that quoted him. Teachers, soldiers, folks from Kansas, small-town mayors, and people from all walks of life did. You do not want a discourse, you want control. That one statement became a sort of hymn overnight. Naturally, not everyone agreed. The internet does not go in one way. Kimmel was correct, and the hashtag Musk breakdown also began trending. Some thought Elon was twisting the story and attempting to play the hero. Others said it was simply another millionaire complaining about criticism. However, something was different this time. This was not a staged publicity stunt. Elon issued no news releases or made any showy pronouncements. He didn't even tweet for 12 hours. And in that stillness, the public filled the void. Clips of the event, backstage footage, and people's own video responses began to flood all platforms. TikTok broke it down frame by frame. Reddit threads studied Jimmy's facial expressions. Instagram stories exploded with side-by-side comparisons of the broadcast and what really transpired. Then came the major players. Dr. Lenora Hastings, a distinguished professor of media ethics at the University of Michigan, wrote a thread condemning Kimmel's actions, a premeditated abuse of power, and warning that if late-night broadcasters become political executioners, we would miss the purpose of public conversation. Others jumped in. Comedian Daryl Nye wrote, "I've clowned on Musk before, but man, Kimmel tried to make him a punchline and was crushed by facts." Meanwhile, Jimmy remained silent. There are no tweets, statements, or anything. ABC's public relations staff issued a generic statement stating that the piece finished sooner than expected owing to time restrictions. Nobody purchased it. Even TMZ described it as the worst cover-up since a celebrity birthday fight. Then followed a fresh wave of individuals who had been silenced for years, including tiny artists, independent journalists, and scientists who had lost their platforms due to contentious discoveries, all sharing Elon's video and adding their voices. The issue wasn't whether you agreed with Elon Musk anymore. It was, what does it say about us if this kind of debate is not permitted? The talk had uncovered something deeper: dissatisfaction, exhaustion, and a feeling that the individuals behind the cameras were filtering too much, controlling not just viewpoints, but who was permitted to speak. Elon eventually broke the quiet. A single post with no description, just a screen capture from the video where he states, "Let people hear it as it happened." 35 million views in under 2 hours. But the story didn't end there. As the internet argued and the media tried to frame its views, Elon was plotting something greater, something that would make the backstage video seem like a warm-up act. But before going live, he made an unexpected call to someone, and that altered everything. 2 days after the footage became viral, a silent warning appeared on X. Elon Musk is live, with no teaser or marketing, just a blank screen that flickered before focusing. Elon sits on a basic chair with no brand behind him, just a bookshelf and a solitary desk light. He seemed refreshed yet serious, with no makeup and no pre-written talk, but almost 900,000 people joined the live inside the first 5 minutes. "Okay," he stated frankly, "I don't want to go back and forth on morning talk programs or Twitter threads. I assumed I'd simply speak with individuals directly. That used to be usual." He stopped before continuing. "I'm not concerned that Jimmy didn't appreciate my responses. I care that he didn't want them in the first place." He was not paying attention to the stream of remarks that came in. This was not a performance. It was something different, something people had not seen in a long time, a public person not performing a role. Then came the surprise. Elon presented his guests one by one, not as superstars or polished influencers, but as voices who had been silenced, deplatformed, and mocked. Jenna Aoki, a former scientific journalist, was banned by 2 major networks after reporting on lab leak allegations. There was Christopher Darnell, a software developer who lost contracts after refusing to include keyword filters in his AI model. Finally, Dr. Lionel Rivera, a former policy advisor, warned about internet censorship before it became a norm. Each of them spoke a few words, not rants or speeches, but personal experiences of what it was like to be shut out even when they weren't shouting or spewing hatred, just inquiring. Elon leaned back as they spoke. He did not interrupt. He didn't have control over the story. He allowed it to breathe. Finally, he clarified that freedom of expression does not imply freedom from consequences. "I understand that. But increasingly, the repercussions seem a lot like erasing." He was not attempting to be lyrical. He was striving to be heard. People throughout America watched on their phones, TVs, and computers, including truck drivers in Nevada, nurses on break in Nebraska, and college students in Boise. Not everyone agreed with him, but they listened. Then something unexpected occurred. Halfway into the webcast, Elon shifted the subject to the media. "Why do we assume that the only method to communicate with the public is via late-night presenters or TV anchors? Why are we still seeking permission to be heard?" That's when the comments section erupted. People started to share their own experiences of being censored, mocked, and misunderstood. Not all were dramatic. Some were insignificant, but they mattered. They began trending inside the stream itself, like a rolling wall of restrained emotion. And suddenly, unexpectedly, a familiar figure emerged in the corner of the screen. Aria Salter, an independent media analyst based in Tulsa who had been quietly building steam for years but was not affiliated with a major network. "Elon," she said, "I've been watching. I believe we're at the start of something, not just a moment, but a change. What does the ability to communicate without filters entail for platforms like mine and yours?" He stared at her first, then at the camera. "It implies they will attempt to shut it down, but it also means we will create something new." By the time the live finished about 2 hours later, more than 23 million people had seen at least some of it. No advertisements, no editing, just people speaking. However, the implications of that broadcast would not remain online because Hollywood was paying notice and was about to respond in ways that would take Elon off surprise. The morning following Elon's live webcast, the entertainment industry shook like a hive that has been kicked. Meetings were scheduled at studios around Los Angeles, from Burbank to Culver City, and phone lines hummed with hushed terror. Not only had Elon gone off script, but millions had tuned in and remained. And Hollywood disliked losing control. The initial attack was subtle. Media sites started to publish back-to-back op-eds denouncing the stream as dangerous, a breeding ground for disinformation, and a threat to public confidence. Anchors on national morning programs repeated the same phrases. The synchronization was too tight to overlook, yet damage control was not effective. In Santa Clara, a freelance producer posted pictures of internal ABC emails discussing whether to remove all Elon-related content from their internet platforms. Not just the Kimmel segment, everything. They seemed to be attempting to completely obliterate the moment. Everyone noticed. Next came the sponsors. Within 48 hours, 3 big sponsors discreetly ended their contracts with Jimmy Kimmel Live. One of them, a historic insurance business located in Des Moines, released a brief public statement saying, simply, "We support dialogue, not censorship." Kimmel eventually broke his quiet the next evening. He began his program with forced laughs and a fresh round of jokes directed at Elon. So evidently free speech now includes billionaires yelling at you for not like their tweets, he grinned into the camera. However, the crowd did not laugh in the same manner. Not this time. Online, footage of his talk drew hundreds of comments doubting the veracity of the punchlines. "Where's the joke?" one person asked. "All I see is damage control." Meanwhile, Elon remained silent, not tweeting once. Instead, others came forward. Remember Arya Salter, the independent journalist in the stream? Her following increased threefold in 4 days. She was asked to speak on podcasts, panels, and live streams by individuals looking for genuine, unfiltered discourse rather than networks. And she wasn't alone. Dozens of independent voices saw a dramatic surge. Previously disregarded accounts were suddenly multiplied by thousands. Platforms such as Rumble and Locals saw an increase in sign-ups owing to viewers searching for areas where speech did not have to go through 6 legal censors. Back in Los Angeles, several insiders started commenting anonymously on media websites. One seasoned writer's assistant from a successful streaming series said that it is not about loving Elon, but about the fact that someone has finally called it out. How tightly managed everything is behind the scenes. If a person like him is cut off in the middle of an interview, what chance do the rest of us have? The remark went viral, but the big blow came when a former ABC executive who had worked with Kimmel's staff for years posted a critical thread on LinkedIn. She explained how producers were instructed to gently guide interviewees away from certain viewpoints. She noted that it is not conventional censorship, but rather a script, and if you do not follow it, you will vanish. Within hours, her piece appeared on The Hill, The Daily Caller, and even TechCrunch. The facade was crumbling. Hollywood could take a joke, but it couldn't handle the mirror Elon had just held up. And no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't stop millions of people from wondering how long they'd been viewing a version of reality that had been modified to keep them comfortable. But as Hollywood tried to recover face, Elon was creating something new that no one saw coming, not even his harshest detractors. Elon resurfaced 5 days after the live broadcast, this time behind a whiteboard in an Austin, Texas conference room rather than in front of a camera. No pomp, no countdown, just a tweet saying, "If the old platforms don't want real dialogue, we'll build our own." Most people assumed he was being figurative at first, but whispers began to circulate within hours from within the Tesla and X offices. Elon had secretly formed a task team of software engineers, media gurus, and former journalists who were weary with gatekeeping and eager to try something new. By day 7, it had a name. OpenFrame, not a platform, but a framework, a set of tools that enabled makers, journalists, and regular people to broadcast actual conversations with no interference, no shadow bans, no selective algorithm boosts, just pure chronological reach. Simple, you talk and they either hear or do not. Skeptics rolled their eyes. Another app, they said. This will collapse much as Truth Social or Parler. However, they miscalculated the situation. This was not a battle between conservatives and liberals or IT geeks versus mainstream media. It had transformed into something else, individuals against filters, honesty versus orchestration. And Elon did not attempt to sell it. He just let it develop. On opening day, Arya Salter was the first to go live. No script, no makeup, just her phone and a narrative about how she was once ordered to leave emotion out of her reporting because it made readers uncomfortable. Within minutes, more than 600,000 people were watching. Then followed Dr. Rivera, the former policy advisor who answered live questions regarding the reality of internet censorship and the gradual decline of public discourse. Then Christopher Darnell webcast a live 2-hour session that demonstrated how firms attempted to steer AI research away from controversial results, even if they were correct. Each was unique, yet they all had something in common. Nothing was cut or padded. It was dirty and honest. Meanwhile, Jimmy Kimmel Live had its lowest ratings in nearly 8 years. Advertisers were concerned. The segments felt thinner. Audiences didn't respond in the same manner. The laughs seemed empty. The rhythm was off. The machine had been struck. But Elon didn't gloat. He never mentioned Kimmel again. That quiet said more than any interview could. Instead, he left a single statement to X pinned to the top of his profile. "You may quiet the microphone but not the message." It caught fire. Thousands more others reposted it. Artists transformed it into posters. High school kids printed it on t-shirts. It was used to kick off college debate teams sessions. Some others regarded Elon as a symbol. Others continued to attack him, claiming he was manipulating turmoil to gain power. But regardless of perspective, the same thing continued to happen. People continued to watch, listen, and speak. In Nashville, a retired librarian established a weekly open-frame broadcast where he read prohibited books aloud and explained why they were important. In Fresno, a former union representative began talking with workers who felt disregarded by both major parties. In Springfield, Missouri, a single father established a Q&A webcast only to discuss mental health with strangers who needed it. This wasn't viral buzz anymore. There was traction. For the first time in years, people were not taught what to believe. They were thinking aloud together in public. Something genuine started to emerge from that raucous, embarrassing, and wonderful cacophony. A week passed, followed by another. Jimmy Kimmel Live went on a scheduled pause, but sources say the atmosphere on set had shifted. The vibe was off. Writers murmured about the rising tension. Executives pushed for lighter portions, but the audience stopped paying attention to late-night comedy. They were watching as something else rose. OpenFrame reached 10 million active users in less than 3 weeks. Not only in the United States, Germany, Brazil, South Africa, and South Korea. Conversations were conducted in real time in native languages with no intermediaries. The platform did not guarantee truth. It made no claim to have fixed the world. It merely returned the microphone, and that was enough. Elon still hadn't conducted another sit-down interview. No press tour, no book launch, just stillness and the odd message encouraging people to think for themselves. Then, one night, without warning, he silently went live again. He sat in front of the same bookcase and wearing the same black top. The room was silent, save for the faint sound of traffic outside. "I'm not here to be correct," he said. "I'm here because I'm weary of individuals claiming to know what's best for everyone else. I'm tired of programs that claim to desire honesty yet can't handle a genuine response. And weary of pretending that discourse is free when it only goes in one direction." He hesitated and leaned forward slightly. "I am not a hero, nor am I faultless, but I am not afraid to speak out." He gazed directly into the lens. "You should not be either. There are no pyrotechnics or outro music, just a crisp transition to black." And there was the clip that got stuck. Not the battle on Kimmel, not the livestream, not even OpenFrame's rapid expansion. That one moment of a guy refusing to beg for the right to speak went viral quicker than any trending hashtag. It was used in schools, churches, barbershops, and family group discussions. Not because Elon was perfect, but because he was imperfect yet determined to stand. Everyone experienced the lesson differently. For some, it served as a reminder to ask questions even if the answers made them uncomfortable. Others saw guts in stepping out even if it meant going alone. And for the majority, it was about this. When someone attempts to silence you, speak out not with wrath or hatred, but with truth even if your voice shakes. We live in a world where the loudest voices seldom say the most, where performance is valued and quiet deliberation is overlooked. But what occurred with Elon, Jimmy, and millions of others watching revealed something. It reminded us that genuine discourse is not safe. It's disorganized, uncomfortable, and unexpected, yet it's the only path ahead. And maybe the greatest way to repair the world is to act as if we had the authority to do it. If this tale moved you or simply made you think for a moment, don't forget to subscribe. Stay tuned, there's more to come. Because the microphone is no longer turned off here or there.